Hi everyone. In this video, we'll walk through the annual physical inventory process in WinSale, from clearing prior variance data to scanning, updating quantities, and printing the variance report. We'll also cover the automatic not found export and how to import it into QuickPO to create missing items. But everything in its own timing. Let's start. Before you start, a couple of quick facts to know. WinSale will do the inventory backup for you once you delete the variance files and start uploading new batches. Before inventory starts, you may also want to print an inventory value by vendor report so that you know your inventory valuation before making changes. This report can be found under Reports, Inventory Reports, Inventory Value By, and you can run it by vendor number and do not report on zero quantities. You can also adjust for one store or all stores depending on how many stores you have in WinSale. When you run this report, this will give you the vendor name, total quantity on hand, cost and resale value of that inventory. Let's move on to inventory taken process. To get to the inventory variance utilities, all you have to do is right-click on any empty area next to the Help menu and click on Variance menu. This gives you quick access to inventory variance utilities that we're going to use today for the inventory taken process. It is relatively easy because we are essentially going to go down the menu, making the inventory process super easy. There are a couple of optional buttons here that we might skip. First and foremost, we're going to delete variance files. That prepares your inventory and make sure there's no variance files in the way and inventory is fresh. When you say yes to this prompt, it will give you a successful message of deletion, and the next step will tell you that the inventory will be backed up. Hit OK. The inventory was backed up and we are ready to do inventory. At this step, you would grab your data collector and start scanning batches. So you go to however you want to divide your inventory, whether by wall, by brand, however you do it, and start scanning the items with the data collector and importing those files into WinSale. For your specific data collector, reach out to us at support@magnumsoftware.com or via phone or text message by calling or texting 843-476-4767 in order to get instructions specifically for your data collector on how to import those files. But we'll move on with our demo and assume that you already have the files. Next step would be to do a PDT upload utility. So it's a portable data transfer upload utility. Essentially, when you open this utility, it's super simple. It just has two buttons and a batch ID. If you properly deleted variance files, batch ID will always start at 1 and go in the ascending order. And all you have to do is hit the import button and make sure you go to the location of where your batches are. I select the file and I hit open. What it will do is read in everything that my data collector scanned. It tells me, hey, don't forget to delete the data collector. If you're doing it on the fly, you got to make sure you're deleting data collector so that you don't accidentally double up inventory. So you do is hit OK here, It reads it in, converts it into item numbers, and disappears. At this point, you do it as many times as necessary until you run out of files to import. So in my scenario, I have 2 files. So as you notice, control batch ID goes to 2 now. I hit import. I'll go quickly to my folder, grab the batch number 2, hit open, and rinse repeat. Say I am done with my files, but I do have something to put in manually because either the tag is worn out and won't scan, or it's some accessories that I would like to keep track of, but that they don't come with barcodes. Shoelaces, socks, free promo products, whatever else you guys have. In order to track this, I'm going to go back to inventory variance utilities and do inventory variance dialog. This dialog allows me to manually input stuff that I have in inventory that doesn't have any barcode. It will always come with this question first, which is asking you if you want to save the input for later updating, which means do you want to give it a batch number so that you can come back to it and add products to it later if you need to. The answer here is yes. And what I recommend doing is if our batches from a data collector go in the ascending order from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, if you're doing manual dialog, I recommend going in a descending order from batch number 99 or 100 and going down. That way, when you do your reporting, you know exactly, just staring at the report, which items were scanned and which were hand typed in. So we're going to do control number 99, hit enter, and to speed up your process, you can assume quantity of 1 of everything that you type in. And at this point, I can start typing the item number that I'm interested in to put in that didn't have a label. Say, for example, it's this Red Wing shoe, right? And if I don't happen to have it, it will also allow me to add it on the fly. So let's just go ahead and say yes here. We're going to assign it to the Red Wing. And I'm not going to do the department or class at this time. And let's assume the cost is 200. Again, this is hypothetical, so don't quote me on all these costs. This is more for your information. So what it does, it created the item on the fly, but now I can type it in and add it. So it shows me the old quantity in my inventory was 0, now it's 1. Rinse, repeat, whatever other items you guys have, you just type it in here, the exact item number down to the size, and it will import it. If it won't find it, the old quantity will have question marks, and it will tell you the description not found in inventory. So it will be painfully obvious. If you typed in, if I mistakenly, for example, typed in size 10 instead of 10.5, I needed to type in 10.5. Don't fret, just type in the correct item, right? Put it in there, and then go to the item that's incorrect, and you have 2 choices. You can hit the delete key on the keyboard, which allows you to delete it, or just put another item with a -1 quantity, unchecking the assume quantity of 1, which allows you to adjust quantity. Same goes for if I have a bunch of shoelaces. If I had an item number called shoelace and a quantity of 100, I'm not going to sit here and type in 1 at a time. I can come in and put in a quantity of 100, and it will take it and allow me to just proceed next, right? So, for example, 20. Hit enter. Now we adjusted the quantities. When we're done manually putting in inventory, we just hit finish and we're done. So for the purposes of the demo, let's say the inventory is complete. I recommend you guys doing a what's called sanity check. If you notice, I'm going to skip the update inventory from scanned items part, and I'm going to go to control number summary report. What that does, you'll see it in a second, it gives you a quick overview of the inventory you just put in. So I have batch number 1 has 94 items, batch number 2 also has 94, and the reason for that, that's identical file. I just read it in twice for the purposes of demo, so don't be alarmed. And then batch number 99, our hand-typed items, has 21 items. So the total items put in, total quantity in the inventory is 209. So if that looks okay, we can just move on with our day. If something looks astray, like for example, chances of you guys having the same exact quantity on 2 different batches are very low. So this allows you a glimpse to be like, okay, something is wrong with one of the batches. Then you can take it a step further, get out of this report and go into inventory variance and do detailed report by control number. Leave it at the asterisk, which means all the batch numbers, and hit OK. And what that does, it lists every single item, line by line, old quantity, new quantity, and batch ID. So I can tell, for example, just perusing this, I can tell that my batch number 1 and 2 are identical. So maybe it was on purpose, maybe it was by accident. So I can turn around and delete one of the batches before the inventory is final. So everything is looking good for me here. I'll get out of here. I'm ready to make that inventory final. So as you notice, we kind of skipped a couple of options. So these 2 options are our inventory input. Now we're ready to make those changes permanent. So all we do is go to Update Inventory from Scanned Items, which comes up and asks us to confirm that this is what we want to do. We say OK, and it will give us a next prompt. This is new functionality introduced in WinSale recently that will say if there are any items in your inventory that did not exist, it can create a file called not found inventory underscore and then the date, CSV, and will be placed onto your desktop so you can import it via purchase order module in order for WinSale to automatically find those items. Because inventory taken process is an offline process where it doesn't automatically go to our databases to look up these items for integrity purposes. So if you say yes here, once inventory is updated, one more step I would say you would do is 0 range of unscanned. So if there's any items that were in the inventory that had any kind of negative or positive quantities, but were not part of your scan, that assumes that you don't have them. So you would do 0 range of unscanned. And if you're doing inventory for the entire store, rather than by vendor or department, you just don't change anything here and hit OK. It goes through your entire inventory, and stuff that did not change in quantity because it was not scanned will go to 0. This is an important step of the inventory taking process that you don't want to skip. Once this is done, once it analyzes the inventory, it will prompt you to confirm, and if you say yes, it will set those quantities to 0, and your inventory is true and accurate. This is the prompt that will ask you if you're sure to 0 out whatever was not scanned. So you say yes. It goes through the motions. It will not display anything on the screen, but you see your mouse is going to be in a busy quote-unquote state. When the mouse goes from the circle back to normal shape, you know it's ready, and you're ready to do your variance report. You're going to go to Inventory Variance Utilities and Print Variance Report. It's asking us if we want to sort by department. We're going to say No. And do you want to only see what was varianced? So I say yes. What that will show us are only items that were in our report and changed quantities. So old quantity was 1, new quantity is 2 now, right? And you notice that our file, that our report has 2 items that have these UPC codes but are not found in inventory. So these 2 items are now in a separate file that allow us to re-receive them again, potentially mitigating our losses due to not known inventory item to 0, right? Before we run our final report for inventory value, now is a good time to receive the not found in inventory items as POs. To achieve that, you go to Modules, Purchase Orders, Tools, Quick Scan Utility, and we're going to leave it on Create and Receive and hit the Import file. If you remember, the file is on the desktop, and the name of the file is going to say Not Found in Inventory. We select that file, hit Open. This is where WinSale finds it in external UPC databases, deciphers it into the item numbers, and allows you to add it on the fly with the quantities. So at this point, we hit Save and Exit. Yes. And it receives it into our inventory as the PO. We're not going to print it here, so I'm canceling out of this. And now what you would do is the same report that we ran at the very beginning. You would go to Reports, Inventory, Inventory Value By, Vendor, Do Not Report on 0 quantities. Either pick your store or multiple stores, depending on how you did the inventory, and hit OK. This report will now be true and accurate inventory representation between the inventory taken process and things that were not found that were now received. This report will be a direct apples to apples comparison to a report you ran at the beginning of inventory to give you true variance of how different your inventory was assumed to be versus reality. This essentially concludes our inventory process. If you guys have any questions, we're available via email at support@magnumsoftware.com or support@winsale.net, or via call or text to 843-476-4767. Thank you. See you in the next one.